He stands at the door of his hut, hand frozen on the worn wooden frame, staring at what cannot be real. 300 samurai. Their armor catches the morning light like a sea of blood and gold spreading across the valley floor. Horses stamp and snort. Banners snap in the wind. The thunder of their arrival still echoes off the mountain peaks. And every single warrior is facing his door. His heart pounds once, twice, and a third time before his mind can catch up to his eyes. This is death. This is the end of the life. He's carved from nothing in these forgotten mountains. But how do they find him? Why would an army march this far for one broken Ronin who owns nothing but regrets? But to understand how a man with nothing earned the attention of an entire army, we must go back to the night before, to the moment when a choice made in darkness would summon the light of 300 blades to his doorstep. And before we continue, write in the comments what city you're watching from. It's like each of you is standing in that valley with him, witnessing what honor looks like when no one is watching. And if you love stories of honor, sacrifice, and the ancient ways of the samurai, subscribe now. Every video here is a new legend. Every story, a reminder that the old ways still matter. The night begins like every other night has begun for the past 4 years. Cold, silent, alone. The Ronin, he no longer uses his name. Hasn't spoken it aloud since the day he lost the rights. It sits outside his hut, watching the sun bleed out behind the western peaks. His small fire crackles and pops. The only sound besides the wind threading through the pines. The mountain cold seeps into his bones, but he doesn't move. He deserves the cold. He deserves worse. His hut is simple. 4 walls of rough wood, a roof that leaks when the rains come hard, a floor of packed earth covered with a single worn mat. Inside, there are 2 wooden bowls, a clay pot, a small sack of rice that's running low, and a sword he never touches. The sword leans in the corner, gathering dust, its blade still sharp beneath the neglect. He keeps it because throwing it away would be a greater dishonor than keeping it. But he made an oath the day he came to this mountain. He would never draw it again. Not to hunt, not to defend, not even to die with it in his hands. He stirs the fire with a stick and watches the sparks rise and vanish into the darkness above. For years since he failed, for years since his lord fell while he lived, for years since he became nothing, not even worthy of being called samurai, just Ronin, a wave-tossed man with no shore to land on. Some days, he wonders why he keeps living. Other days, he knows. Living with the shame is his punishment, and he won't escape it by choosing death. The extra bowl sits beside him. The second bowl he keeps out of habit even though no one ever comes. His master used to say that a warrior should always keep an extra bowl, an extra space at the fire, because you never know when Anna will walk through your door disguised as a stranger. The memory makes his chest tighten. His master is dead. Honor died with him. And this extra bowl has sat empty for 4 years. He pours water from his pot into his own bowl. It's the last of his water, until he makes the 3-hour trek down to the spring tomorrow morning. He drinks slowly, feeling the cold liquid slide down his throat, rationing even this, because rationing is what you do when you have nothing. When he finishes, he rinses the bowl and sets it aside. Then he kicks dirt over his fire, watches the light die, and prepares to enter his hut for another night of thin sleep and thick memories. That's when he hears it. A sound, faint, almost swallowed by the wind. But a sound that doesn't belong to the mountain's voice. He freezes, his hand still on the hut's entrance. His heart kicks once in his chest. No one comes to this mountain. That's why he chose it. In 4 years, he's seen exactly 2 travelers, both lost, both gone by morning. So what is that sound? He turns slowly, scanning the darkness beyond his small clearing. The moon is thin tonight, offering almost no light. The pines are black columns against the charcoal sky, and their movement. Something pale against the dark. Something stumbling. His hand moves by instinct toward where his sword would have been at his hip, but there's nothing there. He doesn't carry it anymore. Doesn't deserve to. He watches the movement resolve into shape. A person, small, struggling up the path toward his clearing. Each step looks like it costs everything. The figure stumbles and falls. Doesn't get up right away. Just stays there on hands and knees in the dirt. The Ronin doesn't move. Doesn't want to move. He came to this mountain to be alone, to harm no one and be harmed by no one, to exist in the space between life and death until his body finally gives up the burden of breathing. Helping someone, getting involved in anyone's story, would be a betrayal of his oath to disappear. But even as he thinks this, he's already walking toward the fallen figure. Some things are deeper than oaths made in grief. Some things are older than shame. He reaches the figure and sees it's a woman, young, maybe 20, with long black hair tangled with leaves and dirt. Her kimono was expensive, once he can tell by the silk, by the pattern of cranes that would have been beautiful before it was torn and stained with mud and what might be blood. She's shaking, her whole body trembling like a leaf in a storm. When she lifts her face to look at him, her eyes are wide with something beyond exhaustion. Terror, maybe, or the kind of desperation that comes when you've run out of everything. Even hope. Please, she whispers. Her voice cracks on the word. Water. He stares at her. Water. The last of his water, which he just poured into his bowl and drank. The water he won't be able to replace until tomorrow's long journey down the mountain. He has nothing else to offer her. No food beyond a handful of rice. No medicine. No comfort. Just the last drops in his clay pot and the cold shelter of his hut. What kind of man would he be if he let her die here? But what kind of man is he, really? A man who failed when it mattered most. A man who lived when he should have died. A man whose help might be more curse than blessing. The woman tries to speak again, but no sound comes. She sways, and he catches her before she falls again. She weighs almost nothing. How long has she been running from what he doesn't know? And the part of him that wants to stay dead to the world says he shouldn't ask. But he's already lifting her, already carrying her toward his hut, already making a choice that will echo in ways he can't yet imagine. He lays her on his mat inside the hut. She's barely conscious now, her eyes rolling back. He grabs his clay pot, the one with the last of his water, and pours a small amount into the extra bowl, the one that's been waiting empty for 4 years. His hands shake slightly as he lifts her head and brings the bowl to her lips. She drinks desperate, gasping gulps. He has to pull the bowl back to keep her from choking. Slowly, he says. His voice sounds strange. He hasn't spoken to another person in months. Slowly. She drinks again, more carefully this time. When the bowl is empty, she looks at him with eyes that are clearer now. More aware. More, she whispers. He pours the rest. All of it. Every drop he has. He watches her drink it, watches her body stop shaking quite so violently, watches something like life come back into her face, and he doesn't regret it. Even knowing he'll have nothing until tomorrow, he doesn't regret it. When she finishes, she closes her eyes. For a moment he thinks she's died, but then he sees her chest rising and falling with steady breaths. She's asleep or unconscious. Either way, she's alive, and that will have to be enough for tonight. He sits back against the wall of his hut and looks at her in the darkness. Who is she? What is she running from? And why did she climb this mountain of all places to collapse at his door? He doesn't know yet that the answers to these questions are already marching toward him through the night. Doesn't know that, by giving her his last water, he's set in motion something that will change everything he thought he knew about honor, about redemption, about the worth of a life lived in shadow. He pulls his thin blanket over her and sits, watch. The night deepens. The cold grows sharper, and somewhere in the darkness below, decisions are being made that will bring the morning crashing down on him like thunder. Hours pass. He doesn't sleep, can't sleep. The woman breathes steadily on his mat while he sits with his back against the wall, watching her in the dark, wondering what he's done by letting her in. The wind picks up outside, rattling the walls of his hut, and he can hear the pines groaning under its weight. This is a bad wind, the kind that carries storms, the kind that carries change. Around midnight, she wakes. Her eyes open suddenly, and she gasps, her body tensing like she's ready to run again. But then she sees him sitting quietly across the small space, and something in her relaxes. Not trust, exactly. More like the recognition that whatever she was running from isn't here yet. You gave me water, she says. Her voice is stronger now, though still rough. You gave me all your water. He doesn't answer. Doesn't know what to say. She sits up slowly, wincing. Now that there's a little moonlight coming through the cracks in the walls, he can see her more clearly. She's younger than he first thought. maybe 18. Definitely nobility, or at least wealthy merchant class. Everything about her the way she holds herself despite the exhaustion, the quality of her ruined kimono. The small jade ornament still tangled in her hair speaks of a life very different from this mountain hut. Why? She asks. You don't know me? I could be anyone. A thief, a murderer. You're neither, he says quietly. You're someone who needed water. She studies him in the darkness. You live here alone.
Yes.
How long? 4 years. Why? The question hangs in the air between them. He could refuse to answer, should refuse to answer. His story is his burden, not something to share with a stranger who will be gone by morning. But something about the way she asks not with curiosity, but with understanding, as if she already knows what it means to carry unbearable weight, makes him speak. Because I failed, he says. Because I lived when I should have died. Because this is what I deserve. She's quiet for a long moment. Then I know something about failure, about living with shame. What are you running from? Now it's her turn to be silent. He watches her face, sees the struggle there. Fear wars with something else, maybe the need to tell someone, anyone, the truth of what's chasing her. But then she shakes her head. It's better if you don't know. Safer. For you or for me? For you. He almost laughs. The sound comes out as a rough exhale. I gave up safety 4 years ago. I gave up everything. There's nothing left to take from me. There's always something left to take, she says softly, even from people who think they have nothing, especially from them. The way she says it makes him wonder what she's lost, what she's still losing, but he doesn't push. If she doesn't want to tell him, that's her right. He's not entitled to her story just because he gave her water. You can stay until morning, he says. Then you should go. Keep moving if you're running. Don't stay here. And you, I'll go down to the spring. Get more water. Come back. Keep existing. That's not living. No, he agrees. It's not. She pulls the blanket tighter around herself. Do you ever think about leaving this mountain? Going back to the world? There's nothing for me in the world. There's nothing for you here either. He doesn't answer it because she's right. There's nothing for him anywhere. That's the whole point. He's a man standing in the empty space between what he was and what he can never be again. This mountain is just the physical expression of that emptiness. The sword in the corner, she says, and he tenses. You don't touch it, do you? I can see the dust on the scabbard. No. Why keep it then? Because throwing it away would be a greater dishonor than keeping it. But you won't use it. No. Not even to defend yourself. Especially not for that. I don't deserve to defend myself. She makes a soft sound, something between a laugh and a sob. You're wrong, you know? About deserving, about what honor means. You don't know what I did. I know you gave water to a dying stranger. I know you brought me into your home when you had every reason not to. I know you're sitting there hungry and thirsty because you gave me everything you had. She pauses. That's worth something. That's worth more than you think. He wants to tell her she's wrong. Wants to explain that one act of kindness doesn't erase 4 years of failure. Doesn't bring back the Lord he couldn't protect. Doesn't change the fact that he's nothing but a broken man hiding on a mountain. But the words stick in his throat because somewhere deep inside, in a place he thought had died 4 years ago, something responds to what she's saying. Something small and desperate and dangerous called hope. Sleep, he says instead. Morning will come soon enough. She lies back down, but her eyes stayed open, watching him in the darkness. What's your name? She asks. I don't use it anymore. Everyone has a name. Not me. Not anymore? Then what do I call you? Nothing. You'll be gone by morning. Maybe, she says. But the way she says it makes him think she doesn't believe it any more than he does. Makes him think that something is coming. Something neither of them can stop, and morning will bring it crashing down on both of them. He doesn't know yet that he's right. Doesn't know that while he sits watching over her, 300 samurai are making camp at the base of his mountain. Doesn't know that their commander received word hours ago of a young woman fleeing into these peaks. Doesn't know that every trail, every path, every possible escape route has already been sealed. And he definitely doesn't know that the woman lying on his mat, sleeping under his thin blanket, carries a secret that will surround his hut with steel by dawn. The hours crawl by. She sleeps fitfully, sometimes crying out in her sleep, sometimes tensing as if preparing to run even in dreams. Each time, he speaks softly, "You're safe. Rest." And each time, she settles again. He doesn't know why he does this. Doesn't know why he cares whether she sleeps peacefully or not. But he does. Maybe because she's the first person he's spoken to in months. Maybe because helping her makes him feel almost human again. Or maybe because somewhere in the back of his mind he recognizes that this night matters in ways he can't yet understand. Dawn comes slowly, reluctantly, like it knows what it's bringing. The sky shifts from black to gray to pale blue. The first light filters through the cracks in his hut's walls, painting thin lines across the floor. The woman still sleeps. He should wake her, should send her on her way before the day fully arrives, but he doesn't. He lets her sleep while he sits and watches the light grow and tries not to think about how empty his hut will feel when she's gone. Then he hears it, a sound that doesn't belong to morning on the mountain, a sound that makes his blood freeze in his veins. The thunder of horses, many horses, the creak of leather and armor, the low murmur of many men's voices, and it's close. Too close. He stands quickly and moves to the door. His hand trembles as he reaches for the frame. Part of him already knows what he'll see, already understands that the night's choice has led to this moment, but knowing doesn't make it any less impossible when he finally looks out. 300 samurai, their armor catches the morning light like a sea of blood and gold spreading across the valley floor. They're arranged in perfect formation, a semicircle that faces his hut, and every single warrior sits motionless on his horse, waiting. Banners with a crest he doesn't recognize snap in the wind. Spears stand like a forest of deadly bamboo, and at the center of the formation, a commander in elaborate armor sits on a massive black horse, watching the hut with eyes that promise nothing good. The Ronin's heart hammers in his chest. This is death. This is the end of everything. But even as fear floods through him, another thought cuts through. The woman, they're here for her. Whatever she's running from, it's found her, and because he helped her, it's found him too. He turns back into the hut. She's awake now, sitting up on the mat, her face pale as winter snow. She heard the horses. She knows what's outside. "I'm sorry," she whispers. "I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have come here." "Who are you?" His voice is harder than he intends, but fear has edge. "What did you do?" "I didn't do anything. I was born. That's all. I was born to the wrong family at the wrong time, and now they want me back." She stands, and he sees her legs shaking. "But if they take me back, I'm dead. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon." "So I ran, who are they?" Before she can answer, a voice calls from outside. It's loud, formal, carrying the weight of authority. "Ronin, we know you harbor the Lady Akiko. Send her out, and you will not be harmed. Refuse, and you die with her." Lady Akiko, the name hits him like a fist. He doesn't recognize it, but the title Lady means nobility, means power, means he's even more out of his depth than he thought. He looks at Hirata Akiko and sees tears streaming down her face. "Go," she says. "Give me to them. You owe me nothing. You've already done more than anyone had the right to ask. Please, don't die for a stranger." He should do it. Should open that door, push her out, and let whatever happens happen. He's not a hero. He's not even a warrior anymore. He's just a broken man who gave water to someone who needed it. And that shouldn't be worth dying for. His master's voice echoes in his memory. A warrior must know when to fight and when to yield. Pride without wisdom is just another path to death. But another memory rises too. The day he became Ronin, standing over his lord's body, making the oath. Never again. Never again would he stand by when someone needed protection. Never again would he choose the safe path when the right path demanded everything. Even if it cost his life, even if he failed again, he would try. That was the oath. That was the promise he made to himself in the ruins of his old life. And he's already broken enough oaths. He walks to the corner where his sword leans against the wall. 4 years of dust covered the scabbard. For years of silence and rust and abandonment. His hand hovers over the hilt, trembling. If he draws this blade, if he breaks his oath never to touch it again, he can't come back from that. But if he doesn't, if he lets them take her without trying, He might as well have thrown himself off this mountain 4 years ago. Don't, Akiko says behind him. Please, you don't have to do this. Yes, he says quietly, I do. His hand closes around the hilt. The leather is worn smooth, still familiar despite the years. He pulls the sword free, and the blade emerges clean and sharp, somehow untouched by the neglect. His father's sword, his grandfather's before that. A blade that has tasted honor and blood and duty across 3 generations. A blade he swore he'd never draw again. Stay inside, he tells Akiko. He doesn't look at her. Can't look at her. If he does, he might lose his nerve. No matter what happens, stay inside. He steps through the door into the morning light. 300 samurai watch him emerge. He sees their eyes taking in his worn clothes, his thin frame, his single sword held loosely at his side. They see a man with nothing, a Ronin without purpose or power, easy to kill, easy to forget. The commander on the black horse urges his mount forward a few steps. He's older, maybe 50, with gray threading through his topknot and scars marking his face like roads on a map. Ronin, he calls, you don't want to do this. You don't even know who you're protecting. No, the Ronin agrees. But I know she asked for water, and I gave it to her. I know she's afraid. That's enough to die for. He thinks about that. 4 years ago, the answer would have been easy. Nothing was worth dying for after he failed his lord. But standing here, sword in hand with 300 men ready to cut him down, he realizes something has changed. Somewhere in the night, somewhere between giving her his last water and watching over her sleep, something dead inside him woke up. Not hope, exactly. Not redemption, just the understanding that maybe how you end matters as much as how you fail. Yes, he says, enough to die for. The commander shakes his head slowly. You're a fool. Do you know who she is? Do you know what you're interfering with? Does it matter? She's Lady Akiko, daughter of Daimyo Taka. She was meant to marry Lord Hideaki to seal an alliance. She ran on her wedding day, bringing shame to both houses. This isn't some peasant girl fleeing an angry father. This is politics. This is power. This is so far above you that you can't even see the sky. The Ronin absorbs this. A daimyo's daughter. An alliance, marriage. The kind of thing that starts wars if it goes wrong. He really is going to die here. Then I'll die, standing between her and you, he says. The commander studies him for a long moment. You were a warrior once. I can see it in how you hold that blade. What happened? Why are you here, on this mountain, throwing your life away for nothing? I failed someone I should have protected. I'm not going to fail again, but you will fail. Look around you. 300 of my best men. You're one Ronin with a sword that's been gathering dust for years. This isn't honor. This is suicide. Maybe, but it's my choice, and that's worth something. The commander's face shifts, showing something that might be respect or pity. You remind me of someone, he says quietly, someone who also couldn't tell the difference between honor and stupidity. Then, louder, I'm going to give you one last chance. Walk away, leave your hut, walk down this mountain, and never look back. We'll take the girl. You keep your life. This offer expires in 10 heartbeats. The Ronin doesn't move. Behind him, he hears the door of his hut open. Hears Akiko's voice, broken and desperate. Please, don't die for me. I'm not worth it. He doesn't turn around, doesn't take his eyes off the commander. Yes, you are. Every life is worth it. That's what my master taught me. That's what I forgot 4 years ago. And that's what I'm remembering now. The commander nods slowly, sadly, like a man who knows what comes next and wishes it didn't have to happen. He raises his hand and 300 warriors tense, ready to charge. The Ronin's grip tightens on his sword. This is it. This is how it ends. Not in the glorious last stand he once imagined, but in a small clearing on a forgotten mountain, protecting a woman he'd just met, facing odds so impossible they'd be laughable if they weren't so deadly. His heart hammers. His palms sweat, but his hands don't shake. The commander's hand starts to fall weight. Akiko's voice cuts through the moment like a blade. She steps out of the hut, moving past the Ronin, putting herself between him and the army. Wait, Don't hurt him, please. I'll go peacefully. Just let him live. Akiko, no, the Ronin starts, but she shakes her head. You gave me water when you had none to spare. You gave me shelter when you had nothing but a hut. You were ready to die for me when you had every reason to let me face this alone. She's crying now, but her voice is steady. Let me give you something in return. Let me give you your life. She walks forward toward the commander. The Ronin's hand shoots out, grabbing her arm. Don't. You said if they take you back, you're dead. Better me than you. You've suffered enough. You've paid enough for whatever you think you failed at. She looks at him, and in her eyes, he sees something that breaks his heart. Absolute certainty. She's already accepted what's coming, already made peace with it. Thank you for reminding me that kindness still exists, for showing me that honor isn't dead, even if I am about to be. She pulls free from his grip and walks toward the commander. The samurai part, making a path for her. She reaches the black horse and stops, looking up at the commander with her chin raised, defiant even in surrender. The commander looks down at her. Then, incredibly, he dismounts. 300 warriors watch as their commander steps off his horse and stands before Akiko. And then he bows deep, formal. They kind of bow reserved for equals or superiors. 300 samurai as one dismount from their horses and bow with him. The sound of armor and weapons and men all moving together echoes across the mountain like thunder. The Ronin stares, doesn't understand, can't understand. Why would an army bow to the prisoner they came to capture? The commander's Lady Akiko, he says, and his voice is different now. Respectful, almost gentle. Your father has been waiting for you. I know, she says quietly. I'm sorry I ran. I'm sorry I brought shame. No. The commander holds up his hand. You don't understand. Your father didn't send us to bring you back in chains. He sent us to find you. Yes, to make sure you were safe. But also, he pauses, choosing his words carefully. Also to test you. Test to me. The marriage to Lord Hide. It was never meant to happen. Your father knew you'd run. He wanted you to run. He needed to know. The commander glances at the Ronin, then back at Akiko. He needed to know what kind of person you'd become when faced with fear. Would you turn cruel? Would you use your name and power to force others to hide you? Would you think only of yourself? Akiko shakes her head. I don't understand. Your father is dying, Lady Akiko. The sickness that's been in him for years is finally winning. He has months, maybe less, and he needs to choose which of his 3 children will take his place as due. Your brothers are warriors, yes. Strong and skilled and honorable in battle, but your father believes the future needs something more than strength. It needs compassion. It needs someone who understands what it means to have nothing, to be powerless, to need help. The commander turns to look at the Ronin. We've been tracking you for 3 days, Lady Akiko. We knew you reached this mountain yesterday evening. We could have taken you then, but your father gave orders. Wait. Watch. See what she does when she thinks no one is watching? See who she becomes when the weight of her name is lifted. He walks toward the Ronin, who still stands frozen, trying to process what he's hearing. And you, Ronin without a name. Man who gave his last water to a dying stranger. Warrior who broke his own oath to protect someone he'd just met. Do you know what you just did? The Ronin can't speak, can only shake his head. You passed a test you didn't know you were taking. The commander's eyes are sharp, missing nothing. We know who you are. We know your story. Saito Kenji, one sworn to Lord Matsumoto, who died defending his lord's family against bandits. You held off 20 men alone, saved 3 children, but couldn't save Lord Matsumoto himself. You fled in shame, believing yourself a failure, and spent 4 years on this mountain punishing yourself for the crime of surviving. His name, he hasn't heard it spoken in 4 years, and hearing it now makes his chest tighten like a fist around his heart. How do you know? Because Lady Akiko's father makes it his business to know stories of true honor, even when they end in shadow. Especially when they end in shadow. He's been watching you for 2 years. Kenji, ever since word reached him of a Ronin on this mountain who refused to draw his sword even to hunt, who lived on almost nothing, who seemed determined to disappear from the world. The commander's voice softens. He told his daughter about you, told her that if she truly ran, if she truly wanted to escape, she should find you. Find the man who doesn't run when everything is lost. Find the man who still knows what honor means, even when he thinks he's lost it. Kenji, the name, feels foreign in his own mind, looks at Akiko. She's crying again, but she's also smiling. I'm sorry, she says. I didn't know if you'd help me. I didn't know if you'd be the man my father said you were. But I had to know, he had to know, you used me. The words come out flat, empty. This was all a test. No. She steps closer to him. The test was real. My fear was real. I really was running. And if you'd turned me away, if you'd refused to help, that would have been your choice. But you didn't. You gave me everything you had, even knowing it would cost you. You were ready to die for me. That wasn't a test. That was Heao. That was the truest thing I've seen in years. The commander speaks again. Lady Akiko's father sent 300 men not to capture his daughter, but to witness what she would do and what you would do. We saw everything. We saw you give her your last water. We saw you stay awake all night watching over her. We saw you draw the sword you swore never to touch again. And we saw you choose to die rather than let harm come to a stranger. He pauses. That is the man Lady Akiko's father wants at his daughter's side. That is the man he wants to protect his family when he's gone. I don't understand what you're asking me. I'm not asking. Lady Akiko is asking. Her father sent her here to find you, to test you, and if you proved worthy, which you did. Far beyond anyone's expectations to offer you a choice, Akiko steps forward. Her hands are shaking, but her voice is steady. My father is dying. I'm going to be daimyo if the council accepts me, but I can't do it alone. I need someone I can trust. Someone who understands honor not as a word, but as a way of living. Someone who will tell me the truth, even when it's hard. Someone who will protect what matters, even at cost to himself. She takes a breath. Come with me. Come back to the world. Serve my family. Not as a guard or a soldier, but as an advisor. As someone I trust with my life and the lives of everyone I love. Kenji stares at her, at the commander, at the 300 samurai still standing at attention. This can't be real. This has to be some kind of dream. Some hallucination brought on by hunger and isolation. But the morning sun is warm on his face, and the wind still carries the smell of pine, and Akiko is still standing there waiting for his answer. I failed, he says. I failed my lord. I failed to protect him. How can you trust me with anything after that? You didn't fail him, the commander says. You fought 20 men alone. You saved 3 children who would have died. You held the line until help arrived. Your lord died, yes, but he died knowing his children would live. He died with honor, and so did you, even if you couldn't see it. I lived when I should have died with him. No, Akiko's voice is fierce now. You lived so you could be here, so you could give water to a desperate woman, so you could remember what honor means, so you could stand against 300 samurai with nothing but a dusty sword and a broken oath. Don't you see? You didn't survive by accident. You survived because the world still needed you. Kenji feels something breaking inside him. 4 years of shame, of isolation, of believing he was worthless. 4 years of thinking his survival was a mistake. That living was his punishment. And now this woman, this stranger he gave water to in the dark, is telling him that he's needed, that he matters, that his life has purpose beyond suffering. He looks at his hut, 4 walls and a leaking roof, 2 bowls, one of which has been empty for 4 years, until last night, a sword that gathered dust because he thought he'd lost the right to hold it. This has been his life. This has been his world, and it's been nothing. A slow death disguises existence. If I come with you, he sees slowly if I accept this. I'm not the man you think I am. I'm broken. I'm scarred. I won't always make the right choice. None of us always make the right choice, Akiko says. But you make the hard choice. You make the choice that costs you something. That's what matters. That's what I need. He looks at the sword in his hand, his father's blade. His grandfather's before that, a weapon that has served honor across 3 generations. He thought he dishonored it by failing to die with his lord. But maybe he's been wrong all along. Maybe Ona isn't about dying. Maybe it's about living even when living is harder than death. Maybe it's about giving water when you have none to spare. Maybe it's about drawing your sword when you've sworn never to touch it again. Maybe it's about saying yes when every part of you wants to say no. He sheaves the sword, looks at Akiko, at the commander, at 300 warriors who came to this mountain to witness something that mattered. What's my first duty? He asks. Akiko's smile breaks across her face like dawn. To come down this mountain, to eat a real meal, to sleep in a real bed, and then, when you're ready, to help me become the daimyo my father believes I can be. That's a lot of duties. You gave me water when you had none. I think you can handle it. He almost smiles. Almost. It's been for a year since he felt anything like joy, and the muscles don't quite remember how, but something close to warmth spreads through his chest, something that feels dangerously like hope. The commander steps forward and places a hand on Kenji's shoulder. Your lord would be proud. The man you were would be proud of the man you've become, even if you can't see it yet. I don't know about that. I do, because I knew him. Lord Matsumoto and Lady Akiko's father were friends, and your lord's last words before he died were about you. He said, "Tell Kenji he did enough. Tell him he saved what mattered most. Tell him to keep living." The commander's grip tightens. You've spent 4 years punishing yourself for staying alive. Maybe it's time to start living instead. Kenji doesn't trust himself to speak. If he tries, he'll break, and he's broken enough already, so he just nods once. Sharp. Akiko turns to the assembled army. We're going home, and we're bringing a hero with us. 300 warriors roar their approval, the sound echoing off the mountain peaks like thunder. They mount their horses in perfect unison, forming up for the journey down. A warrior leads a horse forward for Kenjinata War, but something gentle, patient, meant for long journeys rather than battle. I don't know how to be what you need, Kenji says quietly to Akiko as they prepare to leave. Neither do I, she admits. I've never been a daimyo before, but we'll figure it out together. That's the point of trust. You don't have to know everything. You just have to be willing to try. He looks back at his hut one last time. 4 years of his life contained in 4 walls and a leaking roof. 4 years of punishment and shame and slow death. Part of him wants to burn it down, to destroy the evidence of his suffering. But another part understands that it needs to stand, needs to remain as a reminder of what happens when honor looks like failure. When doing the right thing means losing everything. When the only choice left is to keep breathing and hope that someday, somehow, it will matter. The extra bowl, he says suddenly. Can I bring it? Akiko looks at him, understanding in her eyes. Of course. He goes back inside and retrieves it. The second bowl, the one that sat empty for 4 years until last night. The one that held his last water when a stranger needed it more. He wraps it carefully in cloth and tucks it into his worn bag. Maybe in the years to come, when he's advisor to a daimyo, when he's surrounded by power and politics and the weight of decisions that affect thousands, he'll look at this simple wooden bowl and remember that honor sometimes looks like giving water when you have none. Remember that redemption can arrive in the dark, desperate and afraid, asking for help. Remember that the most important choice you ever make might be the one that costs you everything and gives you nothing. Back accept the knowledge that you tried. They ride down the mountain as the sun climbs higher. 300 samurai, a future daimyo, and a Ronin who just learned his name again. The path is steep and treacherous, but the horses are sure, and the warriors ride with the confidence of men who know every stone and root. Kenji rides near the front, beside Akiko, and tries to process everything that's happened in the space between last night's sunset and this morning's dawn. What happens now? He asks. Now we go to my father. You meet him before he dies. He tells you stories about your old lord, because they were friends, and he wants you to know that Lord Matsumoto died with honor and pride in you. Akiko's voice is soft. Then we bury him. Then we figure out how to lead a province together. You and I, 2 people who both thought they'd lost everything and somehow found each other on a mountain. That's a lot to fit into whatever time remains. Yes, but we'll do it. Because that's what honor demands. Not that we succeed, just that we try. Just that we show up. Just that we give our last water to someone who needs it, even when we have nothing left. They ride in silence for a while. The mountain falls away behind them, and the valley spreads out ahead, green and gold in the morning light. Somewhere down there is a castle, a dying daimyo, a future that neither of them chose but both accepted. Somewhere down there is purpose, is meaning, is the life that Kenji thought had ended 4 years ago. The test, he says, eventually. Did I really pass it? Or was that just something you said to make me feel better? Akiko looks at him seriously. You passed it the moment you poured your last water into that bowl. Everything after that's a protection. The sword, the willingness to die, that wasn't the test. That was just you being who you are. That was just honor, living and breathing and choosing to exist even when it's easier not to. And if I'd failed, if I'd turned you away, then 300 samurai would have revealed themselves, and you would have learned that sometimes honor wears the face of a dying girl asking for water. But you didn't fail. You didn't even hesitate. And that's why you're coming with us. Not because you're perfect, but because when it mattered, when no one was watching, when there was nothing to gain and everything to lose, you still chose right. The words settle into him like stones into riverbed, finding their place, becoming part of the landscape. Maybe she's right. Maybe honor isn't about grand gestures or glorious deaths. Maybe it's about small choices made in darkness. Water given when you have none. A stranger protected when it would be easier to close the door. A sword drawn despite an oath, because something matters more than oaths. They reach the base of the mountain as the sun hits its peak. The commander orders a brief rest, and the warriors dismount to water their horses and eat. Kenji sits on a rock, still holding the reins of his horse, still trying to believe this is real. Akiko sits beside him. "Thank you," she says quietly, "for the water, for everything after, for being the man my father said you were. I'm not sure I am that man yet. You are. You just don't know it. But you will. Give it time. Time." The word feels strange. For 4 years, time has been his enemy, each day stretching endlessly, each hour a reminder of failure. But now, suddenly, time feels different. It feels like possibility, like maybe there's a future worth living toward instead of just surviving through. "Your father," he says. "What should I say to him when we meet?" Tell him the truth. That's all he ever wanted from anyone. Tell him you gave his daughter water when you had none to spare. Tell him you drew your sword when you'd sworn never to touch it. Tell him you're afraid if you are. Tell him you don't know if you can do what he's asking. Just be honest. That's the foundation of everything he'll need from you. And if I disappoint him, then you try again. That's how trust works. You fail, you learn, you try again. You don't have to be perfect, Kenji. You just have to be present. You just have to keep showing up, keep making the hard choices, keep being willing to give water when you have none. The commander calls for them to mount up. The journey continues. They ride through villages where people stop their work to watch the procession pass. 300 samurai is not something you see every day. Even in a world where warriors are common, children point and stare. Old main bow. Women clutch their children close, not out of fear, but out of respect. This is power moving through the world, and everyone recognizes it. But Kenji notices something else. Notices how Akiko nods to the villagers they pass, how she acknowledges the children's waves, how she carries herself not as someone above them, but as someone responsible to them. This is who should be as daimyo, a ruler who demands, but a leader who serves. And this is what he'll help her become. Not through force or power or fear, but through the same principle that got him here. Giving what you have, even when you have nothing left. They reach the castle at sunset. It's massive, sprawling across a hilltop like a dragon guarding its treasure. Walls 30 feet high. Gates that could stop an army. Towers that watch the countryside for miles in every direction. This is where Akiko grew up. This is the world she knows. And this is where Kenji will learn to navigate power and politics and the weight of decisions that affect thousands. The gates open. As they approach, more warriors line the courtyard inside, standing at attention. Servants rush forward to take the horses, and in the doorway of the main keep, backlit by torches, stands an old man. Even from a distance, even hunched with illness, Kenji can see the power in him. The presence. This is Dimyo Takamori, and this is the man whose final test has brought Kenji down from his mountain. Akiko dismounts and runs to her father. They embrace, and Kenji looks away, giving them their moment. The commander appears at his side, nervous. The older warrior asks, terrified, that means you understand what's at stake. Come to Daimyo wants to meet you. They cross the courtyard. Akiko is crying, telling her father something Kenji can't hear. The old man is stroking her hair, speaking softly. Then he looks up, and his eyes find Kenji's. And in that moment, Kenji understands. This man knows about the water, knows about the sword, knows about 4 years on a mountain paying for the crime of surviving. And he doesn't judge. He just understands Saito Kenji, the daimyo says. His voice is rough, weakened by illness, but still carrying command. Welcome. My daughter tells me you gave her water when you had none. Yes, my lord. And drew your sword when you'd sworn not to. Yes, my lord. And were prepared to die for a stranger. Yes, my lord. The daimyo smiles. It transforms his face, making him look younger, stronger, almost healthy. Your old lord, Matsumoto, was my friend. Did you know that? The commander told me. He talked about you often, about how you held off 20 bandits alone, about how you saved his children, about how you blamed yourself for his death even though you did everything right. He wanted me to find you wanted me to tell you that you didn't fail, but by the time I sent men to look, you'd already disappeared into the mountains. Kenji's throat tightens. He wanted you to find me. Yes, he knew you'd run, knew you'd think you failed, and he wanted someone to tell you the truth. You didn't. You saved what mattered most. You kept his children alive. You gave him the death he won in fighting, protecting his family, knowing they'd survive. That's not failure. That's honor. The words hit like hammer blows. For 4 years, Kenji has carried the weight of Lord Matsumoto's death. For years of believing he failed, of thinking he should have died instead. And now, this man, this Daien daimyo, is telling him that his lord wanted him to live, wanted him to be found, wanted him to know he did enough. I don't know what to say. Say you'll help my daughter. Say you'll give her the same loyalty you gave Lord Matsumoto. Say you'll be honest with her, even when it's hard. That's all I ask. That's all I need from you before I die. Kenji drops to one knee. It's not required. He's not sworn to this man, not formally part of his house, but it feels right. Feels necessary. I swear it. On my honor, on my father's blade, on everything I failed to protect 4 years ago, I will serve Lady Akiko with everything I have. I will give her water when I have none. I will draw my sword when I've sworn not to. I will stand against armies if that's what she needs. This, I swear. The daimyo reaches out and places his hand on Kenji's head. Then rise, Saito Kenji. Rise and serve my daughter with the honor I know you carry. Rise. And remember that giving water when you have none is the truest form of nobility. Rise and live the life your lord wanted you to have. Kenji rises. His eyes are wet, but he doesn't care. 4 years of shame are cracking, breaking apart, falling away like old armor that no longer fits. He's not healed. Healing takes time, takes work, takes more than 1 day of revelation, but he's beginning the journey back from that mountain, back from the empty space between life and death. Akiko takes his hand. Come, let me show you your room. Tomorrow we start planning. Tomorrow we start building the future my father wants us to create. But tonight, just rest. Just be here, just breathe. They walk into the castle together, past servants and warriors and advisors who will soon become familiar faces. They climb stairs and walk through corridors until they reach a room that's larger than his entire hut, with a real bed and real furniture and windows that look out over the valley where dawn will soon break. Sleep, Akiko says. You've earned it. She leaves him alone. He stands in the center of the room, still trying to process everything. 24 hours ago, he was sitting outside his hut, drinking his last water, preparing for another night of thin sleep and thick memories. And now, he's here, in a castle, sworn to serve a future daimyo, carrying the blessing of his old lord delivered through a dying man's words. He unpacks his small bag, pulls out the extra bowl, the one that held his last water, sets it on the table by his bed where he can see it. Tomorrow, he'll start learning how to be an advisor. Tomorrow, he'll start understanding the responsibilities he's accepted. Tomorrow, he'll begin the hard work of serving Akiko with the same honor that brought him here. But tonight, he just stands at the window and watches the stars emerge. The same stars that looked down on his mountain hut, the same stars that witnessed him give water to a stranger, the same stars that will watch whatever comes next. And for the first time in 4 years, Kenji doesn't feel like he's waiting to die. He feels like he's starting to live. If you made it this far, write honor in the comments so I know you're one of the few who stays until the end. And subscribe for more stories like this. Each subscription shows there's still room for honor in this world.